Episode 56 of the podcast. This week we're talking about the holiday rush. How do you stay on track with working on behavior problems when everyone wants their dog to be gorgeous for holiday parties and pictures?
You're listening to the Creating Great Grooming Dogs podcast. I'm Christina Meyer-Smith. I'm a certified professional groomer, certified behavior consultant for canines, certified professional dog trainer, and the owner of Happy Critters in Nashua, New Hampshire. And this, my friends and colleagues, is where grooming and training meet.
How do we deal with the pressure of getting that pretty holiday groom done while working on behavior? And it's so hard for many of us to stick to our guns during the holiday rush because we know that that dog will be in family pictures. We start feeling like every family member and friend attending holiday parties will look at that groom and it has to be perfect. So how do we handle that? How can we get that groom as best we can and still be working on behavior? So we're still going to be able to work on calm, comfortable, and cooperative. And we're also working on keeping ourselves calm, cool, and collected. And it can be hard. It can be really hard. So when one of your customers with a dog who's still learning is in for their holiday picture ready groom, right? And you have that pressure, I start with talking with them, remind them about your safety policy and how it's there to protect their dog and you. If you're using a reminder call, text or email, like I know I send out texts before, a couple days before, but before the appointment, you can remind them and go ahead and let them know that if the face is cleared of crusty eye boogies and the dog is brushed out, you'll have more time to work on trimming. Don't feel weird about it. Sometimes groomers feel weird about that, but go ahead and remind them, hey, if you do some of your basic day-to-day ownership stuff, right, and the dog comes in better shape, like most of our clientele do, then I can spend more time working on the trimming. You're not asking them to do part of your job or do part of the job for you. You're asking them to have a healthy dog come in for professional services, just like all of your other customers, right? So if you hear, but my dog doesn't let me and that's why we bring him to you, right? Just remind them of the safety policy. They're paying us to put sharp objects on their dog, and we are a millimeter away from disaster. And if it helps you as a groomer, I want you to imagine yourself using all of your Christmas money paying their vet bill. Because even with my insurance, I have a deductible, and I know for me, my deductible is about $500, right? I don't know about your business, but that's still a good chunk of Christmas money, right? Or you can picture yourself trying to wrap presents one-handed because you got hurt, right? I want you to really have a real image of the consequences of trying to rush through a groom or push a groom on a dog that we know has a behavior issue. Even though it's a Christmas or Hanukkah or holiday pictures or it's Thanksgiving, because right now it's November 5th, so this is timely at this point, right? So if you know that this is a super important one, right? Doesn't matter. That's not really the bigger issue. The bigger issue is not letting the dog get hurt, not letting you get hurt. So once you've communicated your policy and you are going to work with the dog, now I want you to come up with some sort of a strategy. What does this dog have trouble with? Is it the face? Is it the feet? Is it the tail? Right? Think about what this particular individual has trouble with. And then how can you add a bunch of repetitions for those areas? Repetitions will allow you to do a small amount while keeping to the 3 C's, while keeping a dog calm, comfortable, and cooperative. So circling back and doing more, and circling back and doing more, and not working on an area until they can't do it anymore, right? Like we don't want to push them to the point where they fail. We're trying to establish, okay, I'm just coming over next to this area with a comb, and then back to something you're comfortable with. And now this area with the scissors and back to something you're comfortable with. But repetitions, repetitions, repetitions. And you can plan that. You can make time for that. So here's an eye example, because I think examples are helpful for us, right? And also because faces are the lasting impression of a grooming. For most owners, if you get the face right, that's the biggest part for them. That's the part they're going to look at every day. They're not really going to pay attention to clipper lines. You know, they're not necessarily going to pay attention to like if the feet all look perfect, right? So faces are really important. I mean, we as groomers can't imagine not seeing some of those things, but I think that the average owner has more realistic views if their dog is bad for it. And if we get a nice, pretty face, they're pretty happy. So let's use an eye example. So if you're taking the dog in shop style, or even if you're, like being brought in to be put into a crate to wait, or even if you're just bringing the dog in and you do one-on-one, I'm a house call groomer. I'll still do this if a dog is upset about eyes. Is the first thing I'll do is just wet a sponge or a face cloth and just squeeze some water over those eye boogies. I'm not even going to try to pick them out dry. I'm not going to try to wait until we're in the tub. Just prep that area, right? It's like pre-treating a shirt, right? Where you put it in the laundry, right? Just think about it as pre-treating. Like, okay, I'm just going to wet down that area a little bit before I even do any other touching. Now, if a dog is not going to let you go over near their face with a sponge or a face cloth to just squeeze some water out next to their face, you're not going to get a beautiful trim on that face, right? Those owners should know at this point that that's a little extreme, right? The average dog can handle a sponge or a face cloth near their face, right? That's basic safety, right? So let's just say that you've pre-wet them, you've pre-wet that little area on their face. Now it's going to be easier to work on as we circle back afterward. So if they're in a crate, they're now pre-soaking, right? If they're on your table and you just start with whatever you're going to do next, or even if you're putting them in the tub next, those eyes are still soaking. They're starting to break down some of the crust. And usually I will just use water because I don't want to get like soap in there just on the off chance that, it gets in their eyes before we can actually do a bath. So when I do it, it's just water. But I want you to think, even if you are going straight to the tub, it's still helpful because if you do the pre-bath prep work, you can do like just get that little moistened bit. Once you're in the tub, when you're scrubbing them down and getting them soapy, you can probably bring like a sponge or a toothbrush or a comb and just kind of peel away some of those eye boogies gently because now they're softened. Even that little bit of time by wetting the eyes first is important. But if you're doing prep work on the table, you can be brushing or clipping other areas and just keep circling back toward the eyes and circling back toward the eyes. Now, I usually don't clip eyes until after the bath because I want that skin to be clean. What I tend to do if I have eye boogies that I'm soaking off, soaking off eye boogies, is that I'll take the comb and try to get all the rest of that boogie out. And then I can go ahead and like try to get some scissors in there and just take some of that fur off so that in the tub we can get that skin nice and clean. But you can circle back and circle back. You don't have to do the eyes in one shot, right? So this is just an example for eyes, but be thinking about it that if they're comfortable with us going back and forth, we don't have to do it all at once. Some dogs, it's just a matter of, oh my God, they're holding me still for this entire thing and I'm overwhelmed. You don't even have to do both eyes at the same time, right? But I think many of us as groomers are used to, okay, now we do your eyes. Just plan ahead for what this individual dog needs, right? So if you do try to do an area that's just a little burst and the dog has trouble with it, then just back off a little bit and do less the next time, right? Sometimes you can actually do the trimming of the eye area in the tub. Some dogs are much, much, much more willing to let us do a couple of things in the tub while they're soaked. Not really sure why, but go ahead and give it a try because every dog is different. You have time to keep going back if you plan on it. Coming back and doing a bit more each time is likely to be just as time consuming as struggling with the dog, right? Struggling with the dog to get it done isn't fast. We think about it as being fast, or maybe we think about it as more direct route to getting things done. But if the times where I've actually sat down and timed myself or timed somebody else and we were actually looking at how long we spent, I'd rather spend that same amount of time circling back, circling back, circling back, keeping that dog calm, comfortable, and cooperative, keeping myself calm, cool, and collected so that that dog can have a chance to be learning something good and any progress I make is being done pretty safely, right? It's definitely going to be more safe. Because a dog who is calm, comfortable, and cooperative is more likely to allow you to make progress in short bursts, right? And maybe you can get that really cute picture-ready face. Because that's the big part about holidays is that we're all imagining these dogs are being seen by everyone that customer knows, right? And they're all saying, "Oh, who grooms your dog?" And, they're all in the pictures, right? So everyone's going to look back on that Christmas picture and said, I wish they had gotten his ears better, right? That pressure can really affect us. Just plan ahead, circle back, circle back, circle back, right? Use the same strategy with anything a dog is uncomfortable with. So if it's feet, then check the feet for mats at check-in, right? If there are some mats, I use a detangling spray, just kind of work it in before I even bother doing anything else, right? As a house call groomer, I'll often do that while I'm setting up. I looked at the dog when I came in, said, all right, I know you're not great for your feet. Let's take a look. Oh, you got a couple of little tangles. Let's go ahead and put some detangling spray in there while I set up, right? Marinate him. A little bit of marinade, right? We'll get that soaking in so that we can address it. Let our liquid tools do some of the work, right? And then I can keep coming back, coming back. The same strategy, right? If there are mats and you spray something on it, pre-soak, right? Plan on working in shorter bursts. Try doing some of the work in the tub. And like I said, I don't know why some dogs allow it, but some of them do. Sometimes you can get, your scissors into that little mat in between pads that a dog is not going to let you do on the table. Or at least maybe not at this stage. Hopefully, we're all working toward dogs being able to let us do that on the table. But if what we need to do is something the dog is more comfortable with in the tub, then that's a start. That's where we start, right? So sometimes I'll even scissor like a round foot while the dog is soaking wet. Okay, be careful if you're trying that for the first time because it's really easy to go way too short. But if this is a dog who's a little overgrown, I can just go ahead and really quickly take some of that off. It decreases our drying time of paws, right? And helps them to have some of it done in an area where they're a little bit more relaxed. Okay. The tub trick isn't going to work for everybody, but even when you get them back on the table, be thinking about, okay, I'm drying you. Now I'm going to do a little bit on a foot and back to an area you're comfortable with, and a little bit more on a foot, back to an area you're comfortable with. You can squeeze them out before they ever even get the dryer. Think about your time savers. Things that save time are going to help that dog who has trouble. Personally, I like time savers anyway because I'm a house call groomer and time is money. I mean, anywhere that time is money, but I don't have a cage to put a dog into to be dried. So I'm doing start to finish, hands on. Time savers are super important to me. So I squeeze them out before I even get a dryer on them. And if a dog is worried about their feet, you can wrap those feet a little bit with a towel, really get it, squished in there while you dry other areas and just go back to the feet. But if you're thinking ahead of time about circling back, circling back, circling back, and be thinking about the things that dog thinks are difficult. I think that sometimes we do faces last. I remember somebody was telling me that they always do like the face last, and I always do the face first. And maybe not completed first, but that's my chance to assess if this dog has issues with their face being done. And if I get a chance to do some of it, I can go back if after they shake their head a couple times and after we work on other stuff, if they're not, if while they're wearing it, something like pops out. Trainers might not understand what I'm talking about with that, or vets or vet techs, but what I mean is that sometimes they shake their head and there's a sticky outie. There's like a couple of little spots that you didn't notice before when you were combing through, right? And you just want to keep going back and just tweaking it until it's perfect. Now, some groomers can get a perfect head on the first try, and man, I wish I had that skill set, but that's just not me. I admit, I am not the world's most awesome groomer, right? I have to kind of go back and if I don't have anything I have to tweak when I go back, I'm like, ooh, darn, look at that. Nothing to tweak. Holy cow, right? But I want you to be thinking that going back and continuing to work on those things instead of trying to get it done in one big burst, doesn't take you all that much longer than struggling with a dog, right? This is the strategy for the dogs who we know have a problem with something. So we should have already allotted a little bit more time. We should have already told our customers about, well, it's going to take a little bit longer. Your charges might be XYZ, right? We talked about our safety policy with them. So we've already done that part. Just now, do your job and make sure that you're keeping the dog calm, comfortable, cooperative. Don't worry about their holiday pictures. Just try to do a nice job. If you're enjoying my podcast, please remember to subscribe so that you don't miss any episodes. One of the other issues at the holidays is talking to customers when they make their appointment, because that's really important, because the holiday rush often brings out those customers that, we get our dog groomed every year, whether he needs it or not, folks, right? They're like, we get him done at Christmas. Spring gets those folks too. Like there's this April rush of, we got him shaved every year, right? And sometimes these are people who shop around and go someplace different every year. So they've got a 5-year-old dog who's been groomed 3 times in its life, right? And they often think anyway, that it's just a groomer's job to get nasty dogs perfect. Now, nasty, that's a charged label, isn't it? Right? But sometimes these folks are describing their own dogs as pushy or dominant or stubborn or mean or nasty, right? Or they might honestly think that their dog is an angel. But I want you to think these owners need our help to understand what we can and cannot do for a dog who's struggling. And that it's struggling, that this dog is having a hard time, that this dog is reacting to something that it finds uncomfortable. And that we have a safety policy, right? We need to talk to our owners about that, especially when these are the once a year who are all disappointed and raving lunatics about the fact that their dog couldn't be perfect and perfectly groomed and ready for Santa, right? Raving lunatics. That's another label. But I think we all know those people, right? That they can bring them in once a year. We need to help them understand that we can't just fix it or force it or get it done. Right? We need to tell them what we will do and what we will not do if their dog can't handle the process. We have a safety policy to protect their dog. We have a safety policy to protect us. And they have responsibilities as owners. Now, the customer is not always right. And we can remember that. Like, no, they don't understand. They don't understand what's going on. Many, many customers don't have a clue. We need to clue them in, right? But I want you guys to be treating behavior problems the same way that you handle matting problems, right? No one out there is going to say, well, you know what, let's leave the length for you and I'll just trim over these mats so that he looks perfect for his pictures with Santa. And don't worry, I'm not going to charge you more for that. Right? No one should be doing that. I think we all look at that as like, whoa, that's crazy, right? Treat behaviors the same way. Behavior problems are not going to we're not going to do beautiful trims over behavior problems. That's not going to work out for any of us. We need to be able to tell them when something is too much for their dog. Okay? And that could be like I said, the customer who comes in once a year, or the brand new customer who, bought their poodle mix a year ago and it's time for his first grooming and everyone on their poodle mix Facebook group is telling them about how groomers don't understand their breed, right? We need to be able to help them understand what we do, that their dog needs to be calm, comfortable, and cooperative about it, and be compassionate with these owners, right? They're doing their best. They don't understand. They're coming to us often really stressed out because it was a last minute thing on top of everything they needed to plan for Thanksgiving or everything they needed to plan for a holiday party, right? They're stressed out. And be kind. Be kind to people when you're explaining that this is what we can do and this is what we can't do. And talk to them about it when they make the appointment so that they can decide if they want to go someplace else. You don't need to keep every customer. You can let them decide. Are they going to find someone who says, that's baloney, we'll get the perfect trim on him no matter what? Good. They can go there. Don't let it be you that gets hurt. Don't let it be a dog that gets hurt on your watch. If they want to go to somebody who's going to let them get away with that and insist that the dog is perfect, maybe they'll find someone. Maybe that person also needs the message of you don't have to put up with that. Like that's how groomers burn out, right? So there's some other groomer who's ready to burn out right now who might take them, but it doesn't have to be you. And you can address this being kind to them, right? You can help them feel like, no, this is for your own good, for your dog's good, and I'm not going to get hurt this holiday season for your dog's Santa photo, right? I mean, that's not appropriate. You know, I think a lot of owners don't realize that their dog could hurt somebody even if their dog isn't biting. Like they think hurt would only be if their dog bit, and they're all convinced their dog wouldn't bite. Or just put a muzzle on him, and then they complain like, why isn't his face perfect? Well, you can't do faces on while a muzzle's on, right? So I want you to be thinking about they don't understand. We can educate them, and a lot of that has to be done when they're making the appointment. So as a house call groomer, I have my safety policy is something that I can text to people or email to people, and I get it out there for them. I can, of course, explain it to them over the phone. If you work in a shop and you have someone else doing your appointments who isn't necessarily a groomer, teach them about their safety policy. Make sure that they are making that a discussion point when people are booking. Because your regular customers are used to hearing it, right? But just make sure that it's already in their head when they make the appointment so that they are not surprised when they come in and their dog is crazy and we can't do everything we wanted to do. And if it's a brand new customer, that's even more important to explain what's going to happen, what will and will not happen, before we even find out if the dog has an issue. Just make it something everybody hears. Everybody. Because I want all of us to be safe. I want our dogs to be safe. I want groomers to be safe. And teaching dogs to be good for grooming is going to be safer for owners. Right. So be thinking about the holidays as a chance to groom all of your regulars who are awesome and put them in their most beautiful Christmas trims, and try not to be pressured by the dogs who are struggling, because you don't have to make them perfect. Okay. So this week's weekly action step is to think about those couple of dogs that you have who have some struggles. And I want you to plan out how you can try to get a beautiful trim on them by circling back and circling back and circling back and planning on some time to make sure that you have enough time to just repeat, 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 and try to get something beautiful without necessarily having to just get the eyes done right now, right? Or just get the feet done right now. Plan ahead. Plan ahead, give yourself some extra time. Make sure that you have time during your holiday rush to get them done. Everybody, have a nice week and stay curious. If you'd like to talk to me, you can find me through my grooming and training business, happycrittersdogtraining.com, my email, chrissy@happycritters.net, and through the Creating Great Grooming Dogs Facebook page. And we have these awesome devices in our pockets that allow us to do live video with each other. I can help you with the dog on your table. We can set up live lessons, and you may be surprised at how much we can get accomplished together via video.